Jesus was just ending one of the greatest sermons that's ever been preached in human history. Most call it the Sermon on the Mount. Some say it's the Beatitudes. Others, without question, read it and wonder. And he, by ending this, gave us the greatest part of the message, which a lot of people don't listen to. He gave this directed to and for the disciples of Christ. They who had been chosen to be martyrs for a faith that had been prophesied to come into existence for about 4,000 years, but as of yet had not come into existence. To understand his message, we have to ask the questions of proper exegesis to begin to realize the phenomena of its intent and content. We have to ask who's speaking, to whom, in what dispensation, and is it literal or figurative language? Jesus began his message with how to make a man happy and concluded it with the same subject. What am I speaking about? In Matthew, the 7th chapter, and with verse 24, 25, and 26, Jesus said, "Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken unto him as a wise man who built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon the rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand." Jesus began his message as he concluded it. When he began his "Blessed are they who are going to be obedient" in Matthew 5. And when he concludes it, "Our blessed is the obedient," is the same message. Now, hearing and reality are two different things. The proof of the receipt of a message is the gain that offsets that pain that we endure and brings greater pleasure than that pain brings, or it causes that pain to be subdued. Hearing is not sufficient for security. Christ promises us more than lectures. He promises us reality. The working of God in our lives brings to light the power and wealth that we who are children of God have in Christ. It is proven that earthly wealth will not bring happiness. Some, for the strength of their existence, spend all their time trying to make a dollar bill. And then when they die, they leave it all behind. Same for the strength of the body. They spend all their time trying to make it strong and muscular, and it deteriorates and dies and is buried in dust. Many work on the body to ensure lack of pain and death. They run and jump and do this and do that, and yet they all die. The Bible teaches in 1 Timothy 4:8, bodily exercise profiteth little. The bodybuilder spends many hours building his body, but it doesn't last. Was there not pain in that building? The power received in building the body is a great teacher, but it will never endure time. Glory is fleeting. Might reign for 30 to 40 years, but then you're going to run out of your own country. That is the strength of the body, and you won't have that you'd worked for so long. If you have pain and suffering, make sure that you have pain and suffering for a reason, and make sure that that reason will endure. No life is going to be free from evil. That is disease or death. But if that life that you live is built on the rock, built on He who is eternal, and that rock is Christ, then you'll have the best life that's possible to live. Calamities, rains, floods, all of these are true realities of life. All of us will have them, good or bad. All, Paul says, that live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. 2 Timothy 3 and 12. And in 2 Timothy 2 and 12, it says, if we suffer with him, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he'll also deny us. Then Paul, by the inspiration of the Scriptures, writes, can persecution separate us from Christ? Romans 8:25. These are just metaphorical expressions of calamities. Greater affliction can befall all men, but it's never promised us that we'll be living as children of God in a rose garden. And you know, even in a rose garden, there's always thorns. What persecution we might have and have protected from or in because we're in Christ can be considered rewards of persecution. If you're on a football team or in a denominational church or a political party, the man who's going to be at the top is the one who's going to be persecuted the most. That's just the given facts of life. It's true, both good and bad, men, women, whomever they might be, might have gifts, but that's not a proof of bliss. Many times these miracle boys in the Pentecostal church try to let on like that you won't have these problems if you're in Christ. Why, Judas even had gifts, worked miracles, but they did not convince him that he should be obedient to God. And some people just can't handle roadblocks because Satan puts it in a way that they can't get around them. But when you give, you do by giving up. And some gifts come about by not being those that we recognize. You know, there's sometimes that people have gifts that are not in the church and people confuse them and think that that's the blessing of God. But in Mark 9 and 38, they came to Jesus and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and he followeth not us, and we forbade him. None of them knew him. Jesus' response is used by many to teach a false doctrine. If you welcome a little child, be a benefit to the child, but don't take that child and raise it in denominationalism outside of Christ and think you've blessed that child. Balaam in Numbers 23, 8 through 12 was an alien to the cause of Israel, yet his gift was serviceable to the plan of God. So you can't always say that it's because of gifts. Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams. Pharaoh dreamed dreams. But that last Pharaoh was given a hard heart. Belshazzar saw writing on the wall, which signified or prophesied things to come. Now that was a gift, but it wasn't something that caused him to be obedient to God or to follow his will. To love in safety is not really love. To be at ease in Zion, you better make sure that you're in Zion. And if you're in Zion, you'll know that there's no safety there that cannot be endured and cannot be secured without work. To easily be subdued to terror of men's words or men's work is not to be terrorized. But when we stand in the fullness and the abundance of the Lord, our promise is to have his promise, that no storm, no fair-weathered friend, No great turmoil or temptation can shake us. We have the stamp of approval written in our hearts, built on the rock. For the apostles, when the waves of the whole world was beating against them, both nations and princes were among those of their own people who were trying to destroy them. When the Gentiles were deriding them, and evil spirits and the devil and all those were trying to work together to destroy them, they could stand on the rock. How could you be happier than that? Did the apostles suffer evil at the hands of men? Were they sufferers from evil inside and outside of the church? Did storms burst upon their lives? Their physical lives might have caused them to be daily hungry, naked, have no certain dwelling places. But how did they fare? They wrestled and prevailed and triumphed. When security is great, pleasure, insecurity isn't. And there's a lot of people that don't understand that. Paul said, at my first answer, no man stood with me, but all men forsook me. And I pray God that it may not be laid to their charge. Notwithstanding, the Lord stood with me and strengthened me, that by me the preaching of the gospel might be made known. Their test and trials was for their salvation. A zeal for God on the one hand, and because the hatred for sin on the other, became something that they could use in skill, developed in the strength of heart that was expressed in the Son of the only begotten of God. Unspeakable rewards and comforts, unnumbered good things come to those who are children of God. Good things come out of their way in times that indicate the firm and immovable qualities of the cause of Christ by the Lord himself for those who are built on the rock. Is that you, my friend? Are you a part of the cause of Christ? Are you built on the rock, which is Christ? Have you become obedient to his gospel by repenting and being baptized for the remission of sins? If you're not, you're like the wise man. I'm not like the wise man who built his house on the rock.